So great to see you all. I'm Hugh Tomlinson. For those of you who don't know who I am, the president and the MC of the Tallahassee Quarterback Club. It's so good to see you and have you with us. And of course, over here to my right is our speaker tonight, our keynote speaker, Greg McElroy. Thank you for being here. And by the way, just learned this evening that his mother was a 1980 Florida State graduate. How about that?
What y'all didn't know is, if you might have been able to figure it out, is after the national championship game, the story sounds really good, right? I went 6 of 11 for 58 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So I actually had a teammate punch me in the ribs after the game and cited the ribs as why I played poorly. It was just premeditated the way we thought the whole thing through. All joking aside, it's great to be with y'all. Really appreciate being here with the high school guys, man. Y'all are the foundation from what this game is built. Don't overlook what you guys do, man. Coaches especially, the impact that you guys make on these young men's lives, unbelievable. I still have a close relationship with my high school coach. I hated him sometimes, I love him other times. He's like a dad now. So I can't tell y'all how much I appreciate y'all's influence on these young men and what y'all do to bring out the best in us as players. To you young men that had great weeks last week, man, that's awesome. I mean, I heard a guy, 8 yards to carry? Who had 8 yards to carry? Somebody did. If I did the math right. Okay, 160 for 20, yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Good luck to you guys. And I saw Coach when he walked in, his eyes lit up. He's always recruiting because there must be some players in here. You know what's going on. Well, I have a laundry list of information that Coach wouldn't give y'all. I have it on Florida State. So I'm more than happy to divulge, because every single year we have a tendency to get a little carried away with our week 1 preparation in anticipation of what could go in what direction. And I think, honestly, for my own benefit, I would probably have gone to see TOC, because had y'all won that first game on the back of Mackenzie Milton, I might have jumped out of the booth and severely hurt myself. That was the most incredible thing I think I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. And to see the family and the crowd, and to see everything that you had 50 people from Hawaii and from Florida that were in a section there cheering for him on a reconstructed knee that they gave less than a 0.1% chance of him walking without pain. And to nearly lead the comeback would have been just purely miraculous. But it obviously came a little bit short, and it obviously has now fallen to an 0-3 start. What I would tell you guys, as someone that was part of the turnaround in Tuscaloosa, I was a part of the team that lost 4 consecutive games in the 2007 season, one of which to Louisiana Monroe, prior to winning, that's right, 2007. And by the way, the game against Louisiana Monroe was 21-14, it wasn't that close. It was ugly. But after we lost that 4th straight game against Auburn, we won 13 in a row, and then went on to win, that would be 27 of the next 29 in a national championship. So it can be done. And it can be done here, because y'all are 8 years removed from a national championship. I think it's hard because it feels like forever, right? But the Florida State I grew up with, and like they referenced, my mom went to Florida State. And I would have gone to Florida State if not for that dang Christian Ponder. But he was in my district, and we got him that year. He's from Colleyville, I'm from South Lake, there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We beat his team pretty good. He got the last laugh, as he obviously got the offer to one of the schools that I was strongly considering. Whether or not they were strongly considering me is beside the point. All right? This was a place that I dreamed of going my whole life, here in Texas. And ironically enough, in high school, I can tell this now because I think the statute of limitations has run out, and I committed to Texas Tech. It was the best offer I had at the time. And I was only a 1-year starter in high school. I started 1 year. Chase Daniel was in front of me. He's now gone on to play. I think he's earned $1 million for every pass he's thrown in the NFL, which is pretty cool. I think in my opinion, it's the best job you can ever have. Backup quarterback for 12 years and start a couple games, pretty solid. But he was in front of me, and I didn't have a whole lot of looks. So I committed to Texas Tech, kind of as an insurance policy, because what if I get hurt? My mom cried herself to sleep that night. I didn't know this because she was supportive on the surface. She cried herself to sleep that night talking to my dad saying, I really want him to go to Florida State. But my dad assured her, well, he doesn't have a Florida State offer. Okay, well, I want him to go to Alabama. He doesn't have an Alabama offer. Well, I just don't want him to go to Lubbock. And I can't say I blame her. I would have thrown for a bunch of yards. Mike Leach is pretty cool, but that's kind of my connection to Florida State. This place is special to me. I would credit this place. The first college football game I ever went to was in Los Angeles, California. Florida State with work done in the Coliseum. I don't recall the final score of that game. That was the first college football game I ever attended, and was hooked ever since. So I love Florida State. I'm not saying it because I'm in this room. I'm saying that because I grew up in Florida State. My mom being an alumni, my uncle being a Gator, I had to pick a side. And I picked the right side of the Garnet Gold. The thing about Florida State is it feels like we're a long way off, right? And I'm going to say we because in the midst of friends and family, I'm Seminole. It's in my blood. Yeah. And I feel like I'm allowed to be a Seminole tonight. You are. If that's all right. I don't believe y'all are on the schedule with the Tide this year. So I think we're all right. We're in a safe spot. We're both anti-Florida at the moment. So we're in a safe place. In all seriousness, y'all aren't far. And it feels like forever, man. It feels like forever. I've now called 5 games in this stadium. 5. And each one's gotten just a little bit better. I've called 3 consecutive openers in the stadium. And I've seen some heartbreak. I've seen some heartbreak for Seminole fans. I called Boise State game. I called Georgia Tech in the first game back from COVID. And I called this past year against Notre Dame. And I know the result has been the same. But if you really watch it, that wasn't the same. I don't care what anyone says, that's a different team. I remember going to practice on Friday, and this is no disrespect to Willie, because I really like Willie. I remember going to practice on Friday, and going to practice towards the end of the Jimbo era, and seeing a lot of guys that were messing around. Seeing guys dancing, seeing the lack of focus, seeing guys that really didn't seem all the way invested, if I'm going to be completely honest. Some guys that kind of did their own thing. And it showed up on tape when you watched them. And I think, too, when I came to practice a couple Fridays ago, I didn't see any of that. I saw a level of focus that I haven't seen here ever in the 5 trips that I've made to call games and watch practice behind the scenes. So while the results haven't been different, the level of focus has intensified to a level in which I have not seen. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. And these kids have gone through everything. And talking to them leading up to that game, all they put in, knowing the spotlight that they had, that game had 8.5 million people watching it. And that place, with the 11 official visits that were in the building, a couple of which committed, and the people that watched around the world, they were reminded what Florida State's capable of. 8.8 million, the highest rated game of the college football weekend. The second highest rated Labor Day weekend game since 2015. That happens because not just Notre Dame, that happens because Florida State. So we need to acknowledge where y'all live in the ecosystem that is college football. We need you, and it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. But I did think it was going to be a little time. As the transition and the wounds that were created by Jimbo Fisher's exit, that had to be healed, man. How many of these kids grew up thinking that there was a possibility that someone would leave Florida State for Texas A&M? I certainly didn't grow up thinking that was a possibility. I don't think any of the kids that are between the ages of 18 and 22 ever viewed Texas A&M and Florida State in the same light. And frankly, I don't. I'm 33 years old. Texas A&M, kid from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, was never on the same level as Florida State. That was an eye-opening thing for all of us. Eye-opening. And a lot of money, and we talked about all the other aspects to it, but that hurt a lot of kids on the roster. And I think it's taken years to get over that hurt and disappointment. But now, with the new faces that are on the roster, it's a thing of the past. It doesn't matter. We talked some already about some of those freshmen. You guys are talking about some of those wide receivers. I got a laundry list of guys that they are fired up about. Malik McClain, what the coach just referenced, that dude, that's what a Florida State wide receiver looks like. You look at some of the defensive linemen that have come in. That's what I've come to expect from Florida State. Because there were two position groups that really fell off. When I think Florida State, I think Peter Warwick. I think some of the great wide receivers that have ever played the college game. And I haven't seen anyone quite like that in a very, very long time. Yeah, Tremorion Terry was good. We saw really good players on the 13 team. We've seen good receivers throughout the course of the last few years. But not like what we've come to expect. I think there's some guys on this roster that can be that. I also look at the offensive line, which, as we know, became a position of remarkable disappointment for a very long time. They've made strides. You look at the left side, Rob Scott's going to play on Sundays. You look at some of the other pieces, guys that have transferred in that are likely going to have long careers, not just at Florida State, but at the next level. There's a lot to be excited about, I think, personally, because the buy-in is there. And then we talk about the quarterback. And while Jordan Travis still needs a little time, that dude's going to be good. I'm a believer. He can drop in the bucket, man. That throw he made up the seam in a God-had situation against Notre Dame, what more do you need to see? That dude can get it done. Now, is he going to get it done all the time right now? Maybe not. He's a young player. But his high points are going to be pretty dang bright. And I'm real excited about his future and his buy-in. With Coach Norvell, man, he's going to get the most out of it. On the defensive side of the football, I'm so impressed with some of the guys that have transferred in. I mean, Jermaine Johnson's looked like a dude that's found a new life. I mean, he is the real deal. Now, he almost single-handedly held Notre Dame in check a few weeks ago. I love that dude. Keir Thomas. You got some guys that are desperate to make a change, and they're leaving it all out there. It's their last chance. And I think you got to just trust the idea that, man, they are all in. I really believe that they are. I might be buying time to drink the Kool-Aid like y'all. I might be, but I believe it. Because I've seen it, man. I've seen it. I think the secondary's coming along as well. But I think it's going to be, I mean, turning this thing around is 1 week away. It's 1 week away. Y'all, Louisville's gettable. And tell me, y'all look at your schedule right now. Y'all tell me right now. Tell me there's not a team on your schedule that you can't beat. And that does not, I'm not excluding Clemson. Because I saw a pretty average Georgia Tech team that lost to Northern Illinois give Clemson all they wanted and some the other day. I've seen this team last year, which isn't anywhere close to what this year's team is, go on the road and do some nice things, beat some teams that maybe some people didn't think they could. Hang in there. And here's my final thing before we'll open up some questions, man. We'll tell some stories and have some fun. All right? Do not abandon your guys. Like, I'm telling you this as a player on a team that stunk. What we had in 2007 was a bunch of really average dudes that just tried their freaking tails off. But you know what was in the stands when we went out there and put that putrid performance on the field every once in a while? The guys that would come in the following signing class, that included the likes of Mark Ingram, that included the likes of Julio Jones, that included the likes of Marcel Darius. Go look at the 2008 Alabama signing class. The amount of guys that will be potential Hall of Famers is remarkable. They were all in the stands on their official visits in the final 5 games of the 2007 season. And they were moved, not by the quality of the play on the field, because that would make you move towards the toilet to throw up. But they were moved by the fact that the fans didn't give up on us. And even though we stunk, and even though we were a couple touchdown underdog, probably, I don't remember exactly what we were, even though we were a couple touchdown underdog against Auburn that year, they showed up and they supported us. We got our butts kicked, but they supported us, and it made a difference. Don't take for granted how much of an impact y'all can still have on this program by being supportive, by being loyal, and by continuing to give it everything you have from a fan's perspective. I love your question because you can make a difference. And I think that you guys being in a room like this clearly acknowledge that. So thank you so much for having me. With that, I'd love to open it up. We can tell a million stories about everyone not named Coach Saban. Those are completely embargoed until he retires. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can Mark Jones and RG3 go to Dean Deckerhoff School of Announcing?
Jonesy and RG3, they did that game last week, didn't they? That's right, yeah. Full disclosure, I didn't hear it, I watched it. We had the iPad on. As crazy as it may sound, I think I might watch more Florida State games than I watch Bama games, because Bama games occasionally tend to get a little sideways.
I'm prepared and didn't do the research.
Well, I'm sorry,
Really?
I can promise you, if I'm doing the game, I'll be super prepared. I'll send you my notes. I got them right here. I don't know, I'm sorry. I can't speak for them. All I know is that we always try. I know my week of preparation is no different than that as a player. It's the only way I know. It's the only way, I'd feel anxious as could be if I showed up and didn't know everything about the backup right tackle. Then again, I do a radio show with the offensive line guru, Cole Kulick, so I feel like I'm dialed into the offensive line. But I don't know, man. I think everybody has their own process of getting prepared for a game, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, but hopefully next time they get the Knowles, they'll be dialed in.
Greg.
Yes.
Greg.
Yeah.
So aside from Tallahassee, of course.
Yes.
What is the place when you see it on your schedule you're like, awesome? And why? And why?
That's a great question. What's the best stop on the docket? I've been to some really cool places that you wouldn't believe are awesome. That you show up and you're like, really? Pullman, Washington, super cool. 30,000 people going absolute berserk. They drink 400 IPAs apiece as they walk into the stadium. I'm telling you, that place is different. All right. Not as different as Cal Berkeley, but different, all right? My favorite stop is probably Ole Miss. It's my favorite college town. And I'm allowed to say that, because I think even people from Alabama acknowledge that Ole Miss is pretty sweet. Anyone that hasn't been, highly recommend it. Game can occasionally leave something to be desired, but the tailgating scene is pretty rough. And they take a lot of pride in that. And they do say, and this was some of the factors that Ed Ogeron Main Street mentioned it on my official visit, they redshirt their Miss Americas. Which, as a 17-year-old kid that was just the tiniest bit impressionable, Ole Miss made the top 5 for a reason. Right? It is a cool spot. Not necessarily why I love it. The food scene's awesome. It's got some Cajun flair. And it's just a really cool place. Other places that are kind of off the radar that I'd recommend going, Appalachian State, super cool. Boone, North Carolina, you never know it, but it's awesome. Provo, Utah, albeit it's hard to find a beer above 3.2% alcohol. It was worth the look. It was just a beautiful stadium, a place that was really cool, and we got to see SC there. And we got to see Zach Wilson's kind of coming out party, and he now, of course, has gone on to become the New York Jets quarterback. So it's pretty cool to see him in person. A few others in the ACC. ACC has been kind of interesting. I always thought Blacksburg was pretty cool. To me, the best atmosphere in the ACC is this place, but I would not have said that until a couple Sundays ago. We had caught it in some bad games, some bad turnouts, some totally out of y'all's control. Boise State, for instance, was supposed to be a night game in Jacksonville, got moved here to a noon start on September 2nd. It was 412 degrees. Right? And of course, that famous picture of the English professor with his shirt off reading the book. Y'all remember that? Yeah, that one was shot of the week amongst the crew, and I got $20 to the cameraman. That was a good find. I'm not gonna lie, that was a good find. But that was probably a tough spot. But then we did some other games here. Like we did Miami here a couple years ago. That was pretty good, but that game got rescheduled because of our hurricane. Malik Rozier hit a touchdown pass down the right side late to win it. But it was, gosh, I've done some heartbreakers here now that I'm going through it. Let's not talk about those anymore. Golly. I'm not going to be allowed back, but I love coming here. I think this place, when it's rocking, I've never seen it like it was the other night. That was a special, special place, and there was a little magic in the air. It really was. Yes, sir.
How did you learn your craft as an announcer, and do you have a career unrelated to football?
I don't know. This is, shockingly enough, this is a full-time job for me. I didn't take this gig anticipating it being full-time, but I was telling Doc a little while ago, I have a very addictive personality, and the consumption of college football in the first month of the season, I just grabbed. I can't get enough of it. I was telling him, I'm like, I was 115. My wife's 38 and a half weeks, so not 30, I guess almost 30, 39 now. 39 as of yesterday, or Sunday, so 39. I think it's harder before the birth. Like after the birth, I feel like you already know you're crazy, but before the birth, I'm super crazy. But I was up the other night at 1:15 in the morning, watching tape in Toledo. Why? I don't know. Why not? You can look at my Twitter. I took videos of their quarterback. Like, that's pretty sweet. Like, and I kind of stumbled into a gym. I just can't seem to get enough of it. So I love this gig. And I think it's the best thing that I could do at this point that isn't as all in as coaching. So I think at this point, getting into coaching, I'd just be too late. I really would. To be totally honest. I've always wanted to coach high school football. That to me is the angle of recruiting and the challenges of being a college head coach and NIL and all this other stuff. The sport's lost a little purity. I love it, nonetheless. I love it. I think it's amazing. But high school football to me is its purest form. So if I were to go that angle, that would be the route I'd take. But how did I get into this? Coach Saban told me I'm the best BSer he's ever coached. Dead serious. He said it on the air, on the radio. We had him on the radio. He said that you're the best BSer I ever had. I'm not surprised you're doing this. That's what he said. What was that supposed to mean? He goes, you know exactly what it means. All right? I give you that. You did say best, right? I mean, it's best at something. Best at handing off, best at BS, you know? But at the same time, funny story, the reason why I got into this profession is can do. Not because he ruined my life in college. Kind of did. But because they beat us in what became affectionately known as the comeback. We were up 24-0, lost the game, thanks for bringing it up. And he went on to lead Auburn to the SEC championship, and then eventually played Oregon in the national championship. While I was training in Phoenix for the NFL, the national championship was in Phoenix. And ESPN was like, you just played in a classic game, why don't you just come over and talk about it? I'm like, that's fine. And we played golf before? I'm like, yeah, all right, sweet. Went over, it went pretty well on the field, didn't know anything. And they said, hey, that was pretty good. If you'd like to get into this, we could probably make room for you. And I said, I kind of got to scratch the NFL itch. And then when I got vested, I got my pension, I kind of realized at that point, like, I'm going to have to really grind. I mean, really, really grind for 3 or 4 more years. I could probably get to 5 or 6, maybe 7 years, but it's going to require the stars aligning. Or I can now join ESPN as they're preparing to launch the SEC network and maybe do that for the next 30. And then ultimately I had to make that decision. Like I said, I was an okay player. I thought I was a pretty decent player, but I knew that my shelf life in the league, it was going to run out pretty quick. So might as well take the safe route and go down this rabbit hole. And now I'm standing next to Joe Tessitore in the booth every Saturday afternoon, wondering where the hell my life went wrong. I'm not kidding. Tess drinks 500 milligrams of caffeine before every game. You know how much 500 milligrams is? In Tallahassee, we got to the stadium on a Sunday afternoon, 2:30. The game started at what time? 6:30 or 7:30? He had 12 espresso shots. 12. It was 400 degrees. 12. Dude was like this in the booth when Mackenzie went in. You can hear it. You can hear his feet pattering when Mackenzie went in. Welcome back to college football, Mackenzie! Through a corner to the left. Easy shows. Okay. 2nd and 7. Let's settle down. Alright? Still down 18, alright? Let's just relax. You can freak out when they tie the game, then I'll allow it. Now, Joe's the best, and we have a great time. We have Katie George, who's on the sideline with us as well, and we get to do some pretty fun games, at least we have so far this year. We've been lucky. Yes, sir.
So where are you heading this week? And do you have any upset specials this week?
You want the against the spread number so far? You got to watch Daily Wager tomorrow where I'm kicking Krista Barafalika's behind. Alright? So, I can't tell you guys how much this has been a treat for me. I've been looking forward to it. We had it on the schedule for like months and months and months. So to come down amongst people that I love so much and a team that I love so much, I just so appreciate y'all's hospitality and allowing me to come and talk a little bit. about it with y'all, but I do have to go at some point. My wife could be having a baby as we speak. So thank you guys so much. Don't know.